Evening, good morning, good night, whatever the case may be. It's time. It's time for world history with the one and only me, Coach Hughes. Hope everybody is doing well out there in virtual world, whether you're sitting in the bed, relaxing at the kitchen table, whatever the case may be, sit back and relax to the soothing sound of my voice as I teach you a little bit about, Islam. That is what we've been covering and talking about the last couple of lectures. Do want to add that anytime we are talking about religion, you have to be kind of careful in what you say because, people get their feelings hurt if you're not talking correctly about their religion or if you are talking about another religion. We are just looking at religion through a historical lens. We have talked about Judaism. We've talked about Christianity. We've talked a little bit about Islam, and we will continue our discussions along that line. In the future, we'll probably discuss Hinduism and Buddhism. But never am I trying to convert anybody to one particular religion, or I'm not saying one religion is better than the other. So let's put our historical lenses on and we will continue our discussion with Islam. We've already talked about kind of the origins of Islam there on the Arabian Peninsula, the rise of Islam with Muhammad. Hearing the angel's voice when he was roughly 40 years old, how he did not like the rich not helping out the poor. Most of his messages are contained in the Islamic holy book of the Quran. And if you are a believer or follower of Islam, then you are referred to as a Muslim. So we're going to kind of pick up with the expansion of the Muslim religion. It took a while for people to kind of catch on with this religion, like Christianity. It did appeal to people unfortunate in life, the poor people, because it gave them the ideology of hope and the belief of something better. All right. So after Muhammad's death, Abu Bakr was the leader of Islam. He was the first caliph. You need to know that term for any upcoming quiz or test that, I may give you if you're a student of mine. Now, this title was used, caliph, was used for the highest Islamic leader. So after Muhammad, Abu Bakr, he becomes leader of the religion of Islam. And by all intents and purposes, he is the first caliph, which is the highest title of any leader in the Islamic faith. Abu Bakr unified the Arabians there, especially on the Arabian Peninsula. The Arab army conquered the Persian and Byzantine empires, which was not an easy task in our discussions, in previous discussions about the Persian and the Byzantine empires. Later, caliphs went on, or caliphs, I should say, conquered lands in Central Asia, northern India, and even northern Africa. They controlled eastern Mediterranean and all of those trade routes. So, really, if you look at the map below, they did control a large chunk of what once was the Roman Empire itself. And of course, there in the east, that would be the Byzantine Empire in particular. Now, after many years of fighting, the Berbers of North Africa converted to Islam, making the religion kind of official there in that region. A combined Arab and Berber army conquered Spain and ruled for 700 years. So if you add Spain into this map, which was just to the right of the word Atlantic Ocean and to the left of the Mediterranean Sea word there, that is a good chunk of what I should say once was really the Roman Empire there. Now, Arab merchants took Islamic beliefs and practices with them to new lands, converting people, having people look and see what their religion was about. Coastal trading cities developed into really large Muslim communities. Muslims generally practiced tolerance, though, or acceptance. They did not ban all other religions in their lands. More and more people began speaking Arabic and practicing Islam. It's kind of like the full circle that we were talking about when we were talking about the Byzantine Empire. They're in the Eastern Empire, Eastern Roman Empire, then the Byzantine Empire. Everybody spoke at first Latin and they followed Roman culture and traditions. But remember, they were heavily influenced during the Hellenistic era with Greek culture and the Greek language. So you kind of see a trend here when you're talking about Muslims. If you were a Christian, they let you keep practicing Christianity. If you were a Jew, they let you to keep practicing Judaism. But the more followers that they attracted, you kind of see that switch from one language to their language of Arabic. And when you have that switch, you kind of get into that culture mode, that Islamic culture mode there, and you kind of are persuaded into the religion itself of Islam. Now, the Arabs also took on non Muslim customs as well. Culture blending really kind of changed Islam into a religion of, well, many cultures. And you kind of see that in Judaism a little bit more so prominent in Christianity as well. Now, the development of Muslim cities like Baghdad, which is the current capital of Iraq, and others, you kind of see this blending of cultures to where you have different styles of cultures, but the language itself still Arabic and the practice of Islam still pretty strong. In the 1200s, Muslim Turks, known as Ottomans, attacked the Byzantine Empire. They trained Janissaries, boys from conquered towns, who were eventually converted to Islam's, who became slave soldiers in the Ottoman army. And the Ottomans were, well, they were a pretty powerful group of individuals. These Janissaries fought fiercely. As you can tell, they were trained at a very young age, very similar to kind of like the boys in the Spartan army when we were talking about the Greek culture. These Janissaries fought fiercely, and in 1453, the Ottomans, led by Menid II, took Constantinople, and this really all but ended the Byzantine Empire, kind of fleshing out anything that really was left of the old Roman Republic and then the Roman Empire. The Ottoman Empire really peaked under Suleiman I, and by 1566, the Ottomans took control of really the eastern part of the Mediterranean and some parts of Europe as well. Meanwhile, the Safavids gained power in, well, the eastern part. Before long, the Safavids came into conflict with the Ottomans and other Muslims. The conflict stemmed from, well, an old disagreement about, say again, who should be caliph? There's this argument in the culture of Islam, and the biggest argument that you arguably could find is who should be caliph, or who is the rightful caliph. In the mid 600s, Islam had really, well, split into two groups. You had the Sunni and the Shia. Muslims who thought only descendants of Muhammad could become caliphs were called the Shia. So if you believe bloodline, if you believe the passage from one person to the next from Muhammad, then you were classified as a Shia. Now, the Sunnis, on the other hand, believe that caliphs do not have to be related to Muhammad to be caliph, which is the rightful leader of the Islamic faith. Now, the Ottomans, well, they were Sunni. and the Safads, they were Shi. So you have two groups within this religion, and it all stems over who is really their leader. And you kind of saw this in Christianity with the Eastern Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church over the question of who was in charge of the Christian church there. Was it the Pope who resided, well, in Rome, Vatican City, or was it the Patriarch of Constantinople there in Constantinople? Now, the Safad Empire conquered Persia in 1501. East of the Safad Empire in India laid the Mongol Empire. The Mongols united many diverse peoples and were known for their really their architecture, particularly the picture that you see below me, the Taj Mahal. Now, the Taj Mahal was really just a tomb built in 1631, uh, roughly finished around 1647. Now, under the leader Akbar, the Mongol Empire was known for, well, its religious tolerance, but more restrictive policies kind of popped up and went into effect after his death, led to the end of that empire. So, in conclusion, the big thing that you need to take away today from this lecture were really the two branches of Islam, the Sunnis and the Shia. Who is the rightful caliph? Who is in charge of the Islamic religion? That is the big debate among Muslims, depending on if you're a Sunni or Shia. And that debate continues on to this very day. All right, that will do it for Chapter 12, Section 3 video lecture here. We will move on to some of the Muslim achievements in Section 4 and kind of close out our chapter on the topic of the Islamic religion. Until next time, I'm Coach Hughes.